From 2-hour films to 30-second commercials, animation has become one of the biggest mediums for entertainment and exchange of information to date. Animation has been used in a large number of ways to tell thousands, if not millions, of stories and present instructional materials. However, the means by which animation is performed and achieved are for the most part never talked about. So today I would like to talk about the two most well-known forms of animation to give you a better understanding of their history and how people use them today. The first form of animation I would like to talk about is, of course, traditional animation. Traditional animation was the first method used to give two-dimensional drawings the illusion of movement, hence why we call it traditional animation in this day and age. There were many ways by which people first tried to create traditional animation, such as a contraption called the magic lantern, which was developed by a Dutch scientist named Christian Huygens. His contraption worked by rotating drawings in front of a light, which could be provided by different sources. However, the most commonly used were wax candles. However, this proved to be less effective than some of the other methods that were created at the time, such as the phenakistoscope, which was created by Joseph Plateau. The phenakistoscope was a disc that had drawings drawn in sequence, which would then be spun, and with the use of mirrors placed at one point, would give the illusion of movement. After many more attempts at creating moving drawings and experimenting with inventions such as the ones I've presented, a final system was created, which combines the process of making drawings in sequence and rotating drawings in and out of a visible area. This process could be applied in some of the simplest of ways, such as drawing a single character on many pages of a book, while changing the aspects of the character for every page, then flipping through the pages very quickly. By doing this, you will notice that the character seems to be moving as you flip through the pages. This process is the very same one used in traditional animation we see today. However, the materials used are much larger. The drawings, for example, are much larger in terms of size and detail. In fact, so much detail is put into them that oftentimes artists must use a light table to keep track of the slight changes they make to each drawing. A light table is basically a table with a transparent glass in the middle. This table is then placed over a light that shines under the glass and the drawing. The artist then places the new drawing over the previous one to make sure that the drawings match the movement he wants them to. This process is called onion skinning. After having all the drawings drawn out, the artist then records the drawings being rotated in. This is usually done at 12 frames per second, frames being the word used for each drawing. The amount of frames rotated in can also differ based on how fast the characters have to move. However, this also serves to improve how smooth the characters appear, which means that fast frames aren't always exclusive to fast-moving characters. It is also worth mentioning that while 12 frames per second may be the norm for US cartoons, other animators, for example the people who animate Japanese anime, are known for animating at much lower frames per second. However, the same rule applies when creating fast action animation. The frames per second must go up. This is a quick crash course of some of the hard work and repetition that goes into animating the traditional way, and a little bit of history about the steps that were taken to get to where we are now, and what it took to create some of the most famous and well-known childhood movies such as Bambi, Sleeping Beauty, Justice League, and many, many more. The next form of animation I would like to talk about is called model or clay animation. In the early days of motion pictures, innovators used contraptions to create two-dimensional animation. However, they also occasionally experimented with clay to easily create three-dimensional characters that could be moved around with ease. However, by this time, 2D animation had become the most commonly used form of animation, so model animation fell through the cracks, even after a few people like Lewis Clark Cook, who made the short model animation film called The Little Baker, which showed the versatility and convenience of model animation. However, by the 1930s and 40s, 2D animation had taken a foothold. As a result, the model animation was rarely seen and called impractical and not suited for animation. Then, towards the end of the 1960s, a native Oregonian from Annville was studying animation in the California State University of Berkeley by the name of William Vinton. He experimented with stop-motion animation, among other things, which led him to have an interest in plasticine clay. His study in animation and motion combined to create an interest in clay animation, After experimenting with this for a while, he felt that this was something that clearly deserved further exploration. In the early 70s, Will decided to continue his experiments in clay animation. He wanted to show the potential of the medium, so he invited his colleague and classmate, Bob Gardner, to his house and began filming. The result was an 8-minute long film called Closed Mondays. The film garnered many international awards and was given the very first Academy Award Oscar for the stop-motion film. After that, he and his colleague continued making commercials using claymation, before splitting up to create their own films. Because of this, there was an explosion of interest in this seemingly new form of animation. So to satisfy the interest of the people, Will and Bob created a short documentary of the processes they used to create these films. This sparked many more people to explore the medium even further. This era of experimentation in three-dimensional claymation was beautiful, vibrant, and satisfying. Will built a capable team of animators to expand and experiment with clay and three-dimensional animation. He created many short films with the sole purpose of exploring the applications of claymation, with the most famous one being his first feature film called The Adventures of Mark Twain. The film was a highlight of the team's skill and the pinnacle of the team's experimentation, and it was an important milestone to clay 3D animation. After the creation of Mark Twain, the team proved that they could create popular characters and exciting films, which pushed the expansion of the medium even further, with more and more films being made using this medium. The film, The Adventures of Mark Twain, was the most exciting development in claymation of its time, and arguably the best film of its time. The film was praised for its originality and vibrant colors, which submerged the viewer in the world of Mark Twain. The film exposed claymation to a degree never before seen by audiences, and set the standard for claymation films to come. As for how these claymation films were created, the process was very simple. It included creating clay characters and building sets to match the desired tone, then putting them into desired positions and snapping pictures of them, after which moving the clay a small bit at a time and snapping more pictures. This process was repeated countless times throughout every film, and then played through the form of video, to make it appear as though the clay was actually moving. Sound was then added to give the movement more of a realistic feel. I hope you have enjoyed this small description of how animators create moving works of art, and with hard work and determination have shaped the world into a more colorful and interesting place. Thank you for watching.